I want to get to the wonderful thing that we watched last night. If you care about basketball, if basketball is your thing and you want to see it played at the highest level and you want to see what it's going to take the sport from LeBron. It's 20 years of MVP votes for this guy, and he's got a monster at his side who, when he's healthy, looks like someone who's pretty unstoppable, but not as unstoppable as the guy that Denver has.
He had 40 last night, Anthony Davis.
Yeah, okay, fine. And look, maybe Anthony Davis can conquer Embiid, but those two teams are doing something very different than what Boston and Miami are doing. And Miami doesn't have one of those. Miami's got a 6'6" Will guy, and Boston's got a silky smooth 51 in Game 7 guy. But the teams in the East do not have what those monsters are in the middle out west, nor do they have as beautiful a basketball as what we were watching last night. Here's LeBron chasing down, and here's Jokic somehow being clumsy, but also unbelievable and graceful.
Well, I think if the Heat find themselves in the finals, I do think Miami has one of those. He just so happens to be at least 4 inches shorter and giving up about 100 pounds to Jokic and about 40 pounds to Anthony Davis.
Well, here's the deal. First of all, what Jokic did last night was, as you mentioned, Dan, introduce himself probably to America.
With what he always does.
What he did in the first quarter.
What he did in the first quarter, especially for an Eastern time zone audience that probably went to bed by halftime.
And probably introduce himself to Mark Jackson as well.
Yes. But the 8:30 start helped. You're right.
The earlier start helps, but still, this is what's been happening all year long. This is what made it so confusing.
3 years it's been happening.
3 years, exactly. This is what made it so confusing when people were arguing, oh, if Jokic wins MVP, it's just because he's white. And I'm like, do you guys not watch this guy play? To make a statement like that, it comes from a place of kind of a logical conclusion, ipso facto, not because you actually watched him play. Because if you watched him play, it would be unassailable.
I mean, you believe that voters, everyone else, Mark Jackson, you believe that it took playing against the Lakers for all sorts of casuals to understand. You understand there's a 7-foot Luke out there, correct? You guys understand that there's somebody playing this sport who can do offensive things that Luka can do, and also is going to get all the rebounds as well because he can fight Anthony Davis for the ball.
It's the platform. I think this is what Amin is saying, the platform of the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers at 8:30 at night. Like a whole bunch of people were introduced to that team and that player last night.
Not during a pandemic.
Correct.
That's the other part, because they did this. Ironically, he's done this before, an 8:30 start against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, but he did it in the bubble.
Right.
And people were dismissive of the bubble, and the bubble didn't get good ratings, so we can assume that means a lot of people didn't watch it. Well, a lot of people are watching now. We're coming off the heels of one of the most watched second rounds in NBA.
No, the most watched in 30 years. What the numbers on Lakers Warriors don't really have a precedent in cable television. It's 27 years it's been or something. A different time in America, in the sport, in everything.
Right.
The numbers were crazy on Lakers and Warriors.
Which just goes to show that we should have never gone away from LeBron versus Steph in the finals. Everything would be fine financially in the NBA if we had just kept with that formula. It seemed to work really well. But
Lakers Celtics will do just fine if they get there. I mean,
we'll see. I don't know.
Scott Foster, we'll see. How many Scott Foster assignments are we going to get over the course of these two series?
But what Jokic did last night was, this is scary to say, it was standard. That wasn't the greatest game I've ever seen him play.
Here's something else scary to say. I actually thought Anthony Davis did a solid job on him.
Did a great job.
No, you know who did a good job on him defensively? Rui Hachimura. Because they figured out, look, forget about length. The dude's 7 feet tall. He's bigger than anybody on the floor. Get me someone short and stout and push him around. And that seemed to bother him. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the adjustments are for Game 2. But Hachimura, I thought, it did a really good job in the second half stymieing Jokic. Now on the other end, as Stugotz is laughing.
No, I love that
Why
you're
you
saying
laughing?
that game last night was standard, and then I just checked the game logs. And 3 games ago, he had 53 points and 11 assists.
Dude, he had a triple.
He's 7-1.
He had a 50-point triple double.
Stugotz, it's not. He got so many rebounds that it's not playing to his averages, but that is an average game for Jokic in some ways.
There was a moment last night where I said this guy might get a 20-20-20 game.
Right.
Like that's insane. He had 14 assists. They cooled down in the fourth quarter, but 20-20-20, that doesn't even make sense. That's not even in video game land does that work.
I mean, in the last series that team played, he averaged a triple-double in games 3 and 4, and they lost both of them.
Yeah, and that highlights, I think, some of the issues with Denver, which, again, reared its head last night. Their bench is awful. It's Bruce Brown, and
All right,
that's
Mike,
come on.
Mike likes.
Yeah.
Likes Bruce
Uh,
Brown.
everyone should like Bruce Brown, who's taught himself how to be a backup point guard in this league, and the improvements that Bruce Brown has made year over year since entering it, since coming over to the pros from the University of Miami, has been incredible.
There it is, right. I don't think he taught himself that. He had no choice. I mean,
He's become a hell of a pro, and while everyone was fixated on Anthony Davis matching up with Jokic,
You're
I was
pathetic.
just pointing to the TV, showing my wife,
You're
look,
pathetic.
Lonnie Walker, look, Bruce Brown, they're going at it.
You're pathetic.